Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, for the second time today. Hello and welcome to the Tanso Racing Group Season 9, sponsored by Aqua Twist. Round 5 at Virginia International Raceway, the northern course of this circuit, and it is cut off from the normal full-size scale. Now, we do have some fantastic GR86 racing on the way for you here again today, and some interesting stuff as the season develops, with the points getting ever so closer, and with these drivers really pushing each other to their limits in the final half of the season. So, speaking of points, we will have this graphic ready for you next round out, but for today I will read out your standings as it stands right now, live. And that is as follows. So Daniel Wareham leads the pro categories on 310 points. Then Scott McFall has jumped in front of Mark Brown, and he's in P2 with 259 points. And then Mark Brown on from that in P3 with 249 points. So 10 points between second and third, and another 50 between second and first. Then Tom Blanc just outside that podium spot for the championship on 235, so not too far away for him. Jack Holland 209 and Raz Harper on 146. Obviously, if you were watching the race earlier today, you will notice that Raz Harper, I believe it was, actually went into the pits straight away in both races, so unfortunate for Raz there. Now going towards the AM category then, we do have a Peter Duke leading the way on 327 points. Then we've got Scott Brown with 294 and Michael Walters on 222. Adrian Hadfield on 219 and Craig Corish P5 on 214. Then we have Terry Atkinson in P6 on 202. JT Johnson on 188. Then Tim Walters just in behind on 186. And then right tucked in behind there as well, we have Stuart Briley on 185. Chris Moore, 139, equal with John Kenny, who's also on 139. Sean Atkinson on 132, and Jordan Hadfield on 123. Then we have Michael Elms on 99 and Vincent Vaught on 38. There is your top 15 for the AM category there. And in the Pro AMs, we have Dan Forster, who's on 306 points. Lee Rylands on 275 points. Then we have Sean Webber in P3 on 249. Neil Kennedy is just outside the podium spots on 207, with Peter Woodmore on 194, Mark Proctor on 152, Kevin Woodmore on 125, and Scott Kostrick on 120. Then rounding off the top 9 in the Pro-Ams is Frederic on 107. So there are your points standings as it is at the moment. Now, obviously, as you can see from the background, we are in the practice at the moment. So while we're in the practice, let's bring to you some of the racers here this evening. 20 cars out on the grid at the moment. There's still time for the other cars to join the session and get some laps in as well. Scott McFall does lead the way at the moment. Here he is on your screen now, the Tanso Racing Group livery. You can see what car we are focusing on in the bottom left corner of your screen. As you can see, a picture of the car and the driver's name, the licence country of the driver, which is UK and Ireland under iRacing by default, and then we've got the car number of 371. So multiple details there for the drivers. This is customisable, as we've been talking about with some of the drivers today, and I'm sure we'll get some of that done next round out for you as well. But the times are all close together, and nothing gets into the yellows until John Johnson and John Kenny, who are the two at the bottom of the pack at the moment. But all could change, because these guys are all still very close together. Here is someone that's just behind our leader by 3/10, Mark Brown, with a Dan Wareham not too far behind him, not only on track, but also in the standings at the moment in practice. Remember, this is only practice though, so as nice as it is to have a high position in this part of the session, it doesn't actually mean anything going forward. Obviously, the qualifying session will be where the important stuff lies, and look forward to seeing what these guys could bring for their qualifying session. There's a lot of twists, a lot of turns around this circuit as well, so we bring you up your track map nice and early here today. So there is the VIR North course. There's a lot of little turns as you look at the track map there in the top right corner. It reminds me a bit of the Nürburgring, as there's some slight corners that just kind of put you off a straight on a track, for example. You know, there's nothing that's exactly dead straight on this circuit, because the main area that people would call a straight does have a right-hand kink to it, before going into a sharp right-hander, as we're seeing Dan Wareham do here. We'll jump on board with Mr. Wareham, who will take us around a full lap, and we'll start the lap nice and strong as well. As we go into the double left-hander, you can go very wide on the exit there as you swing back in for the second part of the double left-handers. Same again for the rights, double right-hander. Can't go as wide there on the exit, as you see Dan Wareham doesn't do so. Nice and straight through these S's though. You're able to keep a nice line through there. Good chance for some overtakes potentially. And then it's on the brakes all of a sudden. The course would normally carry on straight and keep going around to the back end. But this time it cuts in right, and again, more S-bends. As we go left, right, over the crest. And a couple more S-bends up until the final little straight, just over another crest into a sharp right-hander that is downhill. This one will catch some people off guard. No doubt there will be some people going straight on through that and forgetting to turn. I've been one of the victims of that and done that many times. You can see Mr. Wareham now coming into the final turn of this circuit, onto the start-finish straight, and across the line any second. Now the line is just after this right-hand kink. You'll see it more. There we go. You can see how it curves around there. Definitely have to steer right, so it's not quite a straight on this course. But that rounds off a lap for VIR. Now we'll come up into the last couple of minutes before we jump into the qualifying session. Now remember, the qualifying session for the Tanso Racing Group is alone qualifying, so you don't have to worry about all the cars being on the track at once. As we see Dan Wareham pull off, and we jump to Dan Forster. Two minutes of the qualifying left to go. You can see if you straight line the S's there, you can basically jump onto the rumble strips either side the whole time. As these cars give off a lovely roar as they come through this track in Virginia. Now, just to remind you as well of the colours, we'll bring them up at the top of your screen. So here is the leaders for each class, and it also demonstrates the colours and what they mean. So the blues, which tend to be at the top half of the table, are the pro category. So if you see a blue stripe next to a number on the timing tower on the left hand side, or on the track map on the right hand side of your screen, they are in the pro class. If you see the yellow, that is the Pro-Ams. Now the Pro-Ams tend to sit around mid-table. Sometimes, as you can see, a couple of them in between some AMs out there on the course. And speaking of, we're going to jump to Lee Rylands, who is a Pro-Am at the moment as well. So P10 at the minute for Lee Rylands, but Forster does lead the way for the Pro-Ams in the practice as it stands. And so we'll now jump to the man that had a fantastic race last round out, and that is Peter Duke, finishing P4 and P5 in the last two heats back at the Oscherleben track. As he pulls off to one side there, he is the leader of the AMs, so the AMs are in red on both the timing tower and the track map. So if you see any red cars out there tonight, highlighted with their colour, they are the AM class. And any second now, the practice will finish. There we go. We've hit the 30 minutes of practice. And just like that, it is all said and done. Now we'll just wait for some of the cars to get out on course. As we see that Lee Rylands has made it out, and the first one out on the track, I believe. And once again, we'll bring you your track map here in just a moment once the times start rolling in. Don't forget, your Tanso Racing Group Season 9 is sponsored by Aquatwist. And a fantastic opportunity both for Tanso Racing Group and Aquatwist themselves. A great opportunity to get your sponsors in as well. Remember, Tanso have season after season of racing, so if you're interested in having your name as the sponsor for the league, then make sure you join the Tanso Racing Group Discord, and you can get any further information from there, or contact John Johnston, and you can look at being the sponsor for next season. Who knows, maybe it'll be Aquatwist again, maybe it'll be someone else. You never know in the racing show business. It's always different. Anyone can swoop in at any time with any kind of deal, so if you want to get involved, whether it's representing the league, racing in the league, or just being a sponsor of the league, you can do so. Just join the Tanso Racing Group Discord, and all the details and information you need will be in there, and you can ask any questions you need to as well. Plenty of people in there that will help you out. As we see Lee Rylands coming around to get ready for his first timed lap of this evening. Went through turn 1 and technically turn 2. That's a 2-turn corner. They'll straighten out very slightly midway through that turn. Once the lap times start coming in, we'll start jumping around, seeing who is doing what. But at the minute, I believe Lee Rylands is currently the car is going to be putting in the lap time the first lap time of this evening, because according to my reports, Lee Ryland was the first person to leave the pits. The number 282 Tanso Racing Group livery. Lee Rylands is about to cross the line any second now and put in the first lap time of the session. There it is, 1:34.725 for Lee Rylands. Now let's give it a moment and wait for the other times to roll in. There's Dan Forster on a 1:34.340. Mark Proctor unable to knock anyone off of the throne there. He's now P6. Peter Duke, the man that's absolutely flying in recent rounds, is now found his way into P4. Let's go to Dan Forster, who's had a fantastic start to his qualifying. 1:34.340, just in front of Sean Webber and Peter Woodmore. Peter Woodmore being involved in some of the fights last round, and unfortunately in a collision in the second heat of the last round as well. That didn't help him at all. That pushed him back just ever so slightly. Scott McFall does take the lead of the session with a 1:33.840. Fantastic time there for Scott McFall. As you can see, almost half a second clear of Dan Forster. See, no one is able to knock McFall off of the lead at the moment. He is still remaining top of the tower. Here he is on your screens at the moment then, 371. Question is, can he improve that time as he comes across the start-finish line once more? He doesn't. He gets close to it, but not close enough. 3 tenths away from his quickest lap time. Tom Bland just in behind Scott McFall as well with a 1:33.946. So they're only a tenth apart, and I can guarantee you now that's probably just one corner, maybe two, that splits the two cars at the top of the tower. Now with just 3 odd minutes to go. It's all still to play for these races. They get 2 or 3 laps to attempt their quickest lap times. And that's why they really put everything out on the line as well. Gotta go for it. Couple minutes left of qualifying as it stands at the moment. Scott McFall leads the way. Tom Bland P2, Dan Wareham P3. Peter Druke being knocked down to P9 overall, with Sean Webber jumping up to P5. So those are your leaders at the moment. Dan Wareham cutting the grass a little bit there on the infield. Getting some nice drifting angle there. As we go into the last minute. I think most of these cars now have completed their lap times. I think the only person we have now out on track is the big boss man himself, John Johnston. Number 55. Coming around on the start-finish straight now. I imagine this will be his last time lap. With 20 seconds left to go before Heat 1, and we'll bring you your standings for the first race. There we go. Grid results are in, and it is as follows. Scott McFall leads away, then Tom Bland P2, Dan Wareham P3, Jack Holland P4, Sean Webber P5, then we have Dan Forster P6, Mark Brown P7, Peter Watermore P8, Peter Druke P9, Lee Rylands P10, Scott Brown P11, Neil Kennedy P12, And then we have on from that Mark Proctor P13, Craig Corish P14, Adrian Hadfield P15, Michael Walters P16, Tim Walters P17, John Johnson P18, and John Kenny P19, with Frederic in P20 overall. Cars are already out there on the grid, ready to go. So are we. There is Tom Bland P2 at the minute. Unfortunately, we can't give you a very nice camera for the start. Just waiting on a couple people to join. Adrian Hadfield, Frederic and Scott McFall. The moment they are in, we will be getting underway here for Heat 1 of this round at Virginia International Raceway. Northern course. 20 minutes of racing up and coming for the GR86s. And the red lights are up. There is your leader. Ready and waiting. 5 red lights are out and we are underway as Tom Bland actually gets a fantastic start there as he moves straight up into P1 early doors. Massive advantage there. I think Scott McFall, bogged down just a little bit on the start straight. As you can see, here is the dashboard view from Scott McFall. So straight away into P2 and Tom Bland just ahead of him. So that's going to be a tricky customer to try and overtake. Shenanigans in the background of the track. Got Michael Walters here and Mr. Proctor. And Frederic didn't join us on track, unfortunately. Proctor instantly going side by side with Michael and getting by him. Plenty of space given between the two drivers though. Pack still all nice and tight here. Peter Woodmore just on the rear end of Peter Duke just on the rear end of Dan Forster. Then Peter Woodmore has moved up a position just as I was trying to find out who is who. As both the Woodmore cars are getting fairly close together now. No doubt they'll be doing some battling soon as these cars start to compress a little more. Dan Forster right on the rear end of Peter Woodmore though. John Kenny and Michael Walters were switching position quite a lot just then. Back and forth between the S's. There is Mr. Kenny. Now Lee Rylands is close to a attack on Peter Duke at the moment, coming down onto the start-finish straight for the first time this evening. 1 minute 40 is how long it took these cars to get around for the first lap. You see the lap times coming in 1:43.461, quickest lap time, but remember that will be beaten because that was from a standing start, so that'll be rolling every time they come through now. And that is Peter Woodmore round facing the wrong way on the circuit, as you can see him shaking his steering, waiting to get going again. As he does get going just behind Michael Walters. Scott McFall is right on the back of Tom Bland. Now let's bring up your track map and the battle box then. Just as I say that, the track map now doesn't want to work, so we won't be bringing the track map up, unfortunately. At the minute, this man here, Tim Walters, up 5 positions from his starting grid position, so he has the most overtakes as it stands on the field at the moment, followed by this gentleman here, Craig Corish, and the big boss man himself, John Johnston, who's going around P14. Newfound pace recently for Mr. Johnston by the looks of things, after I have heard recently that Mr. Johnson is now experimenting on a new... Apologies for the mic interference there, but yeah, John Johnston is on a new rig setup apparently, so he's experimenting with that. That seems to be paying off at the moment in P14 for Mr. Johnston. Scott McFall at the moment still in P2, just behind your leader of Tom Bland there. P1 overall for Mr. Bland. Some wonderful camera angles as these guys come around this track. Peter Duke at the minute, car number 77, with Lee Rylands just tucked in behind him. And we saw these two battling out last round out, and we saw that round obviously earlier today as well, due to our late broadcast. But we saw these two fighting out for position for quite some time as well, as Peter Duke does have the advantage at the moment, the car in front. And unfortunately Tom Bland has had a bit of an off track there. Same with Scott McFall, who is going, or was going down the grid. But he's now in P2. He was fighting it out with Jack Holland there, I believe. Now that is very interesting. We've had a driver disappear from our standings. And that is the other Woodmore driver, who is currently sitting up just in front of Jack Holland. So Jack Holland is currently P4. In fact, never mind. It's showing Jack Holland in the in a different livery. In fact, he's in the It's Racing livery, and it's actually put me off quite a bit there, because I thought it wasn't Peter Woodmore. I think it was Kevin, the other Woodmore. But it's showing us Jack Holland, so Jack Holland in the It's Racing livery. Did Scott and Tom have some contact? We can certainly have a little look. We do have reports that Tom Bland went off track here. Let's resume at normal time, please. There we go. So Tom Bland, Scott McFall battling out here on the straight. There's a little bit of contact, and once again coming together. And once more coming together on the corner. So yes, there was contact between Tom Bland and Scott McFall. Tom obviously being spun right around, and Scott carrying on up the road, but a lot slower than the rest of the cars coming by. So there was contact between the two there on the start straight. Peter Woodmore in the It's Racing livery, now on the attack against Mark Proctor, trying to push his way up and not concede the position to Adrian Hadfield, who's just in behind as well. And you can see Peter Woodmore at the minute taking the fight to Mark Proctor, going side by side through the S's, and gets that position done. He is moved in front and now tracking down the big boss man himself. There he is in the background there. The question is, how is Mr. Woodmore going to get that move done? He looks up towards the inside. He does have that inside line on John Johnston. Same with Adrian Hadfield. He also has the inside line. Peter Woodmore gets through, and same with Mr. Hadfield, as Hadfield looks to close up on John Johnston as well. Now Mr. Johnson still up 3 positions from a starting grid place. P15 overall. Number 55 there, going around into the S's. You can see Adrian Hadfield trying to make maximum use of the draft as he looks up the inside line. John Johnson doesn't give him it because he has that extra momentum which propels him forward, and it's pushed Adrian Hadfield a little bit off his line as Mark Proctor now comes up on the attack on the outside line. Doesn't get the job done. Looks up the inside himself, does Mark Proctor, on Adrian Hadfield, and unfortunately he has to go on the grass to avoid collision with the 2 cars, and sadly that's cost him another position as Michael Walters has moved up in front of him. Now looking up towards the top of the field then, Dan Wareham looking to make a move for that P1, all within a tenth of each other, and they are corner to corner at the moment into the first 2 turns. Dan Wareham still in P2 though, he's slotting in just behind, back into single file traffic. So we see Dan Wareham, the group of 2, Scott McFall and Dan Wareham fighting out for P1, and then we have battle for P3, Jack Holland and Mark Brown as well, just in behind that. But any mistake from these front 2, and that'll bring it into a pack of 4. So we've just gone past the halfway point in this first race. 10 minutes have gone, just under 10 minutes to go for these GR86s around VIR for the first time here tonight. Obviously the second race will have an extra 5 minutes added on. That does go by very quickly. By the time these guys would have got their first couple of laps in, probably first 3 laps in, that 5 minutes is then gone. So and there's John Kenny on the inside line, keeping out of the way there. Thank you very much to Mr. Kenny for letting the others race as he looks to try and return to the racing line, but sees how quick the other cars are coming up behind him, so he's just going to get swallowed up for a few seconds. Whilst the faster cars do make their moves and overtake him. Mr. Wareham still in P2 at the moment then, just behind Scott McFall, 0.3 of a second is all that splits the 2 cars apart. Same for Mark Brown, he is just a couple of tenths behind that It's Racing livery Jack Holland as they come up to the sharp uphill right-hander. Onto the brakes, nice and heavy, nice and early as you start going uphill. Last thing you need is for the back end to kick out and upset the balance of the car on the way up that hill, because that will destroy your momentum and possibly even spin you around as well. This seems to be where the main battle is at the moment on the track. Top 4 all close together, and then 5th, 6th and 7th, which is just here, is that is the battle as well to keep an eye on. Just as I say that, Dan Wareham looking to get a move done on the outside. Contact between him and Scott McFall. You can see Scott McFall's reaction there, and there you can hear the contact between the 2 cars. Still going shoulder to shoulder through turns 1 and 2. Scott McFall does have the advantage. Oh, there's a little bit of a tap there from Dan Wareham, which nearly spun McFall out. A bit of bump drafting as they go through the corners there as well. A slight bit of aggression shown, but you need that in motor racing as well. You do need to try and put your opponent off. And little love taps, as a lot of people call them, is not an issue as these guys race around here once more in the 13th minute. Pack of 4 still ultra close to each other, and some of the other cars are now starting to catch up to each other as well, as battles start getting ever so close on the grid once more this evening. Obviously, this racing brought to you live by the Tanso Racing Group YouTube channel and sponsored by Aqua Twist as well. So if you want any details on future racing events with the Tanso Racing Group or the next season of the GR86s, or you might want to get involved and become a driver, please do so. Join the Discord and join these guys out on track for some fantastic racing. There's people of all different skill ratings and groups here, so you will always have someone to race. Not too sure what happened there for Mr. Mark Brown. Let's have a little look back and see what was going on here. So there's Mark Brown. I think he just sent it in a little too hot, burst into a drift straight away. Jack Holland takes the advantage and gets on by. See Mark Brown leading a pack of long trains here at the Virginia International Raceway, and there's a battle going on back there with involving Tom Blanc once more. Side by side at the moment with Mr. Forster, and Lee Ryland's also trying to take that advantage and move through. Lee Ryland's now going to the outside of the course and looking for the switchback on the inside line as Blanc has made his defensive move onto the outside, and that is enough to keep Lee Ryland's at bay, who does stay behind the car of Mr. Blanc there. Fortunately for Tom Blanc, down 4 positions from his starting grid position. Dan Wareham and Scott McFall exchanging positions on the S's. Which one will come out on top? You've got to be careful because Mark Brown is also being involved in the mix here as well. I thought Mark Brown was going to look up the inside and take it 3 wide, but he doesn't. And Scott McFall goes awfully wide there on the exit, but he's still going to carry that momentum through these S-bends as he keeps his nose in front, but only just. Darren Wareham looks to sneak up on the inside, doesn't do so, and unfortunately Wareham does spin, but he manages to hold the car and keep it pointing in the right direction at least, as he falls down to where Tom Blanc used to be, and Dan Wareham now P6 overall, now in amongst another pack of cars. So the action doesn't stop, as the biggest gap at the moment was between Jack Holland and Mark Brown, 7/10 of a second, but apart from that, from P1 to P8, they're all within a couple of seconds of each other as we come into the last few minutes of this race. You can see Mark Brown there and Scott McFall. I was going to say side by side, but unfortunately Scott McFall has been sent into the wall from a spin. The moment he got on the grass, it was like on ice, and he's gone absolutely flying into the barrier. So a little look here. There we go. Scott McFall unfortunately on the inside line, but Mark Brown and him getting tangled up, and that ends up putting Scott McFall into the wall and back to the pits then. Jack Holland leads the way at the moment then, with Mark Brown now in P3. as Jack Holland does lead the way to Tom Bland at the minute. Tom Bland having a fantastic comeback drive and has actually pushed his way back up into P2. So you see Jack Holland. I'm not too sure why the liveries are showing different, so apologies for that. But Jack Holland in the It's Racing car there, 325, just behind Tom Bland, who's in the lead now at the moment. Tom Bland having an absolutely exceptional comeback drive now in this first race here this evening. We look towards P3. Mark Brown still lurking in the background. He was this position one lap ago, and then that's when everything all went down, shall we say, downhill, as there was contact between him and a couple of others, and it didn't end well for the three drivers. Peter Duke at the moment exchanging positions, and Dan Wareham finding the grass once more. Let's have a little look at what happened with Mr. Wareham. He's side by side here with Peter Duke up the inside line. Peter Duke still on the brakes, just coming off of him now, and Wareham looks like carried too much momentum on the exit, and due to the off-camber of the course, got swallowed up and spun around on his own. And the checker flag is going out then for Tom Bland, who is P1 and comes across the line in P1. Jack Holland P2 and Lee Rylands P3. P4 for Dan Forster and P5 for Sean Webber. So great top 5 finish for those guys there. A lot of action in at the late parts of the race there, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come as well. We'll just wait for Mr. Johnston to come across the line. Here he is now on the final turn towards the start-finish straight. There he goes, crossing the line in P17 overall. So not a bad race for Mr. Johnston there. Now bringing your results for the Heat 1 then. Tom Bland did finish P1. Jack Holland P2. Lee Rylands winning the race for the Pro-Ams there in P3. Then we have Dan Forster P4. Sean Webber P5. Peter Duke wins the AMS in P6. Craig Corrish P7. Scott Brown P8. Mark Brown P9. And then we have Neil Kennedy rounding off your top 10. Dan Wareham, Tim Walters, Mark Proctor 11, 12 and 13th. Then we have Adrian Hadfield 14th. Michael Walters rounding off that top 15. Peter Woodmore P16. John Johnston P17. And scrolling a little further down the grid, P18 for Scott McFall. John Kenny P19. And then we have Frederic in P20 overall. So there are your results for Heat 1. Now we do have a 5-minute warm-up period. And this will be where the drivers will either get some more laps in, take a break and breather, or relax, shall we say, until the second race out. But commentary is going to go quiet for just a few minutes here until we get ready for heat number 2, where the commentary will return and we'll bring you some more fantastic racing. So go grab your drinks, your popcorn, whatever you need, and we'll be back here in a few minutes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the 5 minutes have lapsed and we will be getting ready here in just a moment to bring you your lineup for heat number 2. And here is your grid then. Peter Duke leads the way, P1. Sean Webber, P2. Dan Forster, P3. Lee Rylance, P4. Then followed by Jack Holland and Tom Bland on row 3. Row 4 is Craig Corish, Scott Brown. Row 5 is Mark Brown, Neil Kennedy. Row 6 is Dan Wareham and Tim Walters. Then going down to row 7, we have Mark Proctor, Adrian Hadfield, Michael Walters, Peter Woodmore on row 8. Row 9 is John Johnson and Scott McFall. Then row 10 is John Kenny and Frederic there in the back. So we'll get ready for your race start. There is your race leader, Peter Duke. Will be leading the way. And we're off underway already. A good start from all the cars by the looks of it as things stand. You can see Peter Duke does manage to keep the lead. And oh, there's a spin there for Dan Forster, who's gone around. Now the question is, has he fallen all the way down the pack? And he has it indeed. All the way down to the back at the minute. John Kenny, the only car behind him. So you see Mark Brown going down the grid, unfortunately for him. Off track there. Early doors for Mark Brown. You can see massive track lines going through the grass there. P18 at the minute for Mark Brown. There they go, flying by. Tim Walt was also going down the grid and unfortunately facing the wrong way. And it looked like, was that Dan Forster again, unfortunately. Spinning around, facing the wrong way, trying to get back underway again as soon as possible. Number 200, P18. A lot of cars seem to be dropping down to P18 in this race at the moment. Craig Corish in that top 10 spot at the moment with Scott McFall just in behind him. Scott McFall being a quick driver, looking to go up the inside line of the home straight. And does so indeed as they're side by side currently with his nose just in front as well. Now a whole car's length in front. He's managed to get that defensive line as well from the inside there. Slotting his car into single file traffic just behind the likes of Peter Woodmore, who's wide on the exit there. Managing to pick up some extra speed on the exit of that turn. Coming around towards the double left-handers. See Peter Woodmore now trying to close the gap up front. But speaking of up front, Tom Bland at the minute, Jack Holland going side by side. Tom Bland taking the advantage and going through into P2 just behind Peter Duke, who still leads the way at the minute for the AMS, but the race overall as well, bringing up your class display at the top of your picture there. And there we go, track map is now working, so you can see the gaps and the gaps that aren't so big between some of the racers out there on course as well. Looked like Sean Webber, I think it was, having a bit of a slip up here, a bit further down the grid. I say just further down the grid, he's still in amongst or just behind this pack. We've got a 3 wide going on here with Peter Woodmore in the middle. You had Peter Woodmore, Scott Brown and Neil Kennedy, I think, all in amongst that. In fact, it wasn't Scott Brown, sorry. Peter Woodmore, Scott McFall, there we go, and Neil Kennedy. The amount of times I got those two mixed up today is crazy. They're both going to hate me probably. But you do have Scott McFall at the minute on the outside line. Now going to have the inside advantage after this turn if he can keep his nose up on the inside. Oh, doesn't quite do enough to keep his nose there, and unfortunately does drop the position from P9 going down to P10. Bringing up your battle box in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see the colours of the cars and their classes, and you'll see the driver in focus as well, and positions gained and lost as you see Scott McFall gaining 8 positions since the start of this race. That is the most anyone has got this far. Next closest would be this man here, Dan Wareham, up 7 places. Great race start for him indeed as he comes through the downhill S-bends. 373 in P4. On to the start-finish straight then, just behind Peter Duke. Unfortunately doesn't have the lead anymore, but still in that podium spot, and still does lead the AMS nevertheless. So 3 leaders for the 3 different classes, all within the top 5 at the moment. Question is how long will it stay like that for, because there's a lot of mixing to go. You can see Peter Duke trying to take the fight to Sean Webber there, just in front. There's so much going on in this race, in this second race, like there was in the last round as well, that the feed that we are getting here in the booth is going absolutely crazy with these cars going around at the moment. We had this last round out, obviously that last round being played earlier live on broadcast, and that was an interesting second race as well, because it seemed like all the action was saved for that second heat. And it seems the same way here at Virginia as well, as Mark Proctor P11 at the moment, but still trying to make his way up into that top 10 finish. And we are now, we've had our extra 5 minutes, we're now into the last 19 to go. As you can see, Matt Proctor at the minute up into P10, so he's in that P10 spot. But can he hold it against Neil Kennedy? Neil Kennedy in the Fox Motorsport livery there. A tricky customer to keep at bay, that's for sure. As you can see, a little bit wide there for Peter Woodmore, just in front, P9 overall. And Tom Bland is starting to run away with this lead as well. You can see him 1.8 seconds up the road from Jack Holland, who's now P2. And then the pack being led by Dan Wareham as well. Dan Wareham being the bottom podium spot, P3 overall, and he has a chain of another 4 to 5 cars behind him. In fact, it is 4. There is the 4 behind him. Scott Brown just a little further off than what he'd like. This is a view from Scott Brown's dashboard. As you can see, we go over that blind right-hand crest downhill into the left-handers before the final turn of this course onto the start-finish straight once more. 8 minutes have now lapsed. That's how quickly this time does actually go on this circuit. Around 1 minute 30s, 1 minute 40s, that is the average lap time around here for these GR86s. So every 3 minutes they'll be doing about 2 laps. So you can work out from there how many laps we do have remaining. And Scott McFall posting the quickest lap time, in fact, of the session this far, 1:34.120. So wonderful work for Scott McFall. Currently sitting around the mid-table area, looking to try and gain some time on the car ahead. as we look towards Craig Corish now, who's P13 overall, but nevertheless still fighting for positions here as he tries to take on Adrian Hadfield, car number 13, just behind the number 5 of Hadfield. I think we only have the one Hadfield out there this evening. I think we have for the last round or two as well, unfortunately. There is normally two of them, and they do come as a double act as well. Fighting each other. There's normally times where they're completely apart, and then all of a sudden you look back another 2 minutes later and they're side by side. So things really do change. Just to remind you, your leaders then at the top, AMS, is Peter Duke, Tom Bland, overall race leader and the pros leader as it stands at the moment. And you have Lee Rylands in the Pro AMS leading the way as well. And here is Mr. Lee Rylands, 1.2 seconds off Dan Wareham just ahead. And Peter Duke is having a handful to deal with here, with him and Sean Webber. Scott Brown just in behind that as well. Scott Brown with the bright yellow livery rims there. You can see Peter Duke taking the advantage up on the inside. There's been so much good racing on display out here today, both now and earlier as well. My brain is struggling to actually keep up with some of these races that are going on out there at the moment today with John Johnston side by side. Now this is a sight we don't often see. John Johnston racing nice and hard against his other colleagues out there on the course, and there certainly is a bit of a difference in the way John Johnston races. And since hearing about that new rig, I mean, we didn't see it in the last round, I don't feel. He had a good finish in one of the races, but something about him here tonight makes him look a lot stronger. So I think that rig is starting to pay off, and the more he's in it, the quicker he's going to get as well, because John Johnston is higher than where he would normally be from what I've seen in previous rounds. So top job for Mr. Johnston there. This is the on board with him. There's Dan Forster just up in the distance. Our defence against Adrian Hadfield will be next on the list for the big boss man, as he takes a wide entry through turn 1. Wide once more through turn 2, following the line through into 3 and 4. At the minute, Scott McFall is trying to close that gap down to Peter Duke as he looks towards the outside, then cuts back behind Peter Duke's car, stays in single file traffic up the uphill right-hander. There's the wide exit. That is the one that caught, I believe it was Mark Brown out earlier this evening. Mark Proctor as well, closing the gap down to Peter Woodmore, who's just ahead of him in the It's Racing green car there. And just as I say that, the times are going back up again, so the cars are starting to spread out once more. Scott McFall still within a couple of tenths of a second to the cars ahead. You can see still side by side down the home straight down towards turn 1. Now this is the braking zone that they're in. Scott McFall does take the advantage going through. Later on the brakes for him as Peter Duke does slot in just behind. Dan Wareham now 3 tenths off of your leader, who is once more Tom Bland. Once again fighting very strongly as Bland, and has had some really good races this season, and no doubt can continue that high performance all throughout as well. We have gone past the halfway point in the series, in the season. And what a series it has been as well. I would say this is definitely up there with one of the best Tanso Racing Group seasons that I have seen. We've had some that have been absolutely fantastic and brought action right up till the final whistle, but this one has been spectacular to watch, and still got plenty more rounds of racing yet to come as well. So plenty of stuff to look forward to here. Dan Warren P2 still at the moment in a sandwich. He's got to be careful because Jack Holland is lurking in the background, so if he does take battle with Tom Bland, he's got to try and do so in a way that won't slow him down, because Jack Holland will sneak up on those two and turn that into a three-way battle. And that's something you don't really want around this course, where the slightest hiccup, which will impede you by quite a decent amount around here with the amount of momentum you can carry. And if you don't carry that momentum, the amount of cars that you will unfortunately have drive straight by you as if you're standing still, well, that's quite a large number, so needs to be careful with what goes on here. But Adrian Hadfield, is this the attack we were waiting for? John Johnson on the outside line, needed to realistically be on the inside, but now he's almost behind Hadfield. Would he look for the switchback? But no, he's going to go for it and go in side by side. Maybe the switchback throughout the corner, or is he just going to try and take him around the outside, carry that extra speed around the corner? And he has carried that extra speed, because you can see the car really leaning there. And now he does have that inside line, so that's worked out really well for Mr. Johnston, as they are still side by side, giving each other massive amounts of respect there. As you can see, the cars are nowhere near each other, even though they're side by side. Basically complete opposites of the track, as John Johnson does keep the advantage in front ahead of him, and unfortunately does lose it and spins in the next couple of corners. Looks like the speed was just a little too much through some of those, and he does drop down to P17 unfortunately. But I have to admit, that was some top quality racing there between those two. I didn't think John Johnson would have that position around the outside. He managed to basically shut me up and put me in my place, and said, you stick to the commentary, mate, and managed to hold that position. And unfortunately just spun out on a couple of corners later, so that could be down to a commentator's curse. So potentially that one is on me, so I do apologise there, Mr. Johnston. You see down where I'm trying to look up the inside of Tom Blah, not close enough to go for the move yet. 133.878 for Scott McFall, quickest lap time of the session. As you can see, this is the dash cam of Dan Wareham. He looks up the inside and does get up on the inside indeed. You can see there is contact between the two, and that sends them both wide, as Jack Holland really does catch up now. He's right on the back of this group of three, so this is the battle for the lead within the last 10 minutes now as well. 7 minutes 20 seconds to go. 7 minutes, I'm lying, 8 minutes 20 seconds to go, as the top three still remain the same: Tom Bland, Dan Wareham and Jack Holland. Now your leaders for the classes are as follows. AMS is Mr. Peter Duke. Tom Bland for the pros, obviously overall race leader as well, and then Lee Rylands P4 for the Pro AMS. He's P1, so a good little race for those guys here this far. Lee Rylands doesn't have to worry too much. Sean Weber is a couple of cars away from him, so doesn't have to really worry about those mirrors yet. Same for Peter Duke. It's actually the P2 in the Pro AMS that splits Peter Duke from Scott Brown. Once more, we're on with the dash cam of Dan Wareham, coming up nice and tight to your leader. No doubt Tom Bland is going to defend that inside line, which he does. He sort of sits middle of the track, and there's, I think, possibly a little bit of netcode contact between the two, because there was no physical as we could see from our camera angle. The drivers may have felt it though, so that would mean a bit of netcode there. Jack Holland looking to take the initiative and go up on the outside there, didn't do so, as these guys still side by side into turn 3 and 4. Double left-handers now, and unfortunately that is almost sideways for Dan Wareham. Manages to hold the car, but doesn't on the next corner, and does spin it around. Now facing the wrong way, and unfortunately out of the battle for P1. So that's going to be massive weight off of Tom Bland's shoulders, because look, this is Jack Holland, and look at the distance now, 3.9 seconds. And just as I say that, Scott McFall gets on by. So see what happened here. Dan Wareham obviously manages to catch the car, and Jack Holland also sending the car a bit too hot into that corner. which put him a few seconds back. So that's the reason why he found himself 3 seconds back, and then being overtaken by Scott McFall, who's now in P2 and 3.8 seconds behind your leader, with only another 6 minutes to go. So not many minutes left on the clock for these racers to move up the grid. Within 6 minutes, Scott McFall, can you knock off 3.8 seconds to your leader? It's going to be a challenge, but you never know. Anything can happen in the world of racing. There's Jack Holland here at the minute, P3, looking to get up to Scott McFall to try and get that P2. Lee Ryland's now also in the question for a podium. He's brought himself in amongst it. You can see him taking a wider line there through the exit with those bright green rims. At the minute, Neil Kennedy as well taking the fight to Mr. Dan Wareham, and Dan Wareham also doing the same back to Neil Kennedy, not wanting each other to have that position. Still side by side all the way through the S's, so very well done for those two drivers to maintain that. Still side by side now into the uphill, and Dan Wareham does take the advantage. Moves up past Neil Kennedy into the top 10 now for Dan Wareham, P9 overall for the 373. You can see the amount of airtime he gets on that inside rumble strip as he jumps over that curb. Tim Watt was trying to go around the outside of Adrian Hadfield. Unfortunately, he had to get on the brakes really strong there and almost stopped the car completely as he went into the corner. A little too hot and a little too late on the brakes, which will probably put a lot more heat into those than what he would like. But he's had plenty of time before using them again for them to cool themselves down with the air that's flowing through these vehicles at the minute. Mark Proctor on the back end of Scott Brown then at the moment. Not too close between those two, but Dan Forster, however, looking for a move up on the inside of Michael Walters. Michael Walters on the outside there, number 84. And you can see Dan Forster does get himself in front and moves up position into P11. We'll show you the outside view of what happened just then. So you can see Dan Forster looking towards the right hand side of the course as he sees it. Up on the inside line. Lovely move, gets the job done nice and easily. Unfortunately, Walters conceding that position, number 84. As it still stands, Dan Forster just outside the top 10 with Michael Walters just in behind that P12. And Mark Proctor trying to put the pressure on Scott Brown once more as we head into the final 3 minutes of this race. So remember what I said earlier on as well. Your leader comes up to the start finish line. Every 3 minutes these guys will be doing about 2 laps. So they've got about 2 to go of this racing session. Can Mark Proctor look for a move? Is a bit too far for a lunge as well, as he closes the gap up to Scott Brown late on the brakes there for Mr. Proctor, who's in P8 now. He's gained another position over the top of Dan Wareham, who's now down 1 position from his starting grid place, unfortunately. Another dash cam from Mark Proctor on the rear end of Scott Brown. So we jump towards Jack Holland. 3 attempts off the car ahead, and that is Lee Rylands in the bottom step of the podium. P3 into the blind crest right-hander. These cars are now starting to spread out once more and potentially for the final time as well. As we're in the gyro cam for Jack Holland. You'll see the drafter slipstream coming into play on these GR86s. Smoke on the outside there. There's a white flag. And who is that? That's off the track. Oh, that's Tom Bland. Let's see what happened to Tom here. Oh no. I think Tom Bland got it all wrong. He has indeed. He's got it all wrong. I can't believe what we've seen. I think even he knows he's got it wrong. We're on the white flag lap. The race isn't over. Tom Bland, who had a fantastic race. I'm not laughing, I promise. It's something to slightly giggle at, because I can't believe what we've just witnessed. It's one of those fairy tale things that you see online, you see on YouTube, but you never see happen in real life, and we've just seen it right in front of our eyes. Tom Bland thought he won the race, done the normal iRacing thing of spinning yourself out on the start-finish straight so you come over the line sideways, and unfortunately he's just conceded the race win, and he's now down to P6, which puts Scott McFall on the top step of that podium, and then Lee Rylands in P2. These are now coming up to the final few turns. Can Lee Rylands hold that P2 position to Jack Holland? Peter Duke once more find himself in P4. We saw that last round out as well, where he finished P4 and P5. So fantastic couple of weeks for him in terms of results. But Scott McFall is going to come across the line in P1. He's going to be your race leader. You see none of these guys are shaking their car as they come across the line. There we go, there's your race winner. Scott McFall, Lee Rylands and Jack Holland coming across, and let's see what Tom Bland does this time. Not too much shaking this time. There we go, he does it after the line this time. And I think he knows this time the race is over as he spins himself out there after the start-finish line. Plenty of smoke there as Tom Bland, I don't think minds that he's lost the race win. Doing donuts just after the start-finish straight. So we've got Peter Duke winning the AM, Scott McFall winning the Pros, and Lee Rylands winning the Pro-Am. So fantastic racing for them. John Johnson, P16. Again, not a terrible position. Seen some quality racing from John Johnson, so it's looking very positive with that new rig. Look forward to seeing what Mr. Johnson can do in rounds coming up as well, as we just wait for him to cross the line. Final car to come over the line then before we bring you your results here this evening. And here are your standings then. Scott McFall, P1. Lee Rylands, P2, but he's won the Pro-Ams there. Jack Holland, P3. Then Peter Duke just missing out on an overall podium, but he grabs that P1 in the AMs. Then we have Sean Webber just in behind that P5. Then going down from there we have Tom Bland, P6. Scott Brown, P7. Mark Proctor, P8. Dan Warren, P9. Neil Kennedy, P10. Dan Forster, P11. Craig Corish, P12. Michael Walters, P13. Adrian Hadfield, P14. Tim Walters, P15. And we have John Johnson, P16, Peter Woodmore, P17. Scrolling down the grid, we have John Kenny, P18, Mark Brown, P19, and Frederic in P20. So there are your results for that second race of the evening. And what an interesting race it was. I do feel a little sorry for Tom Bland, who celebrated a little too early, as we've seen it before. But nevertheless, it's one of these things that do happen from time to time. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our interview segment then. So I'll welcome into our first driver. Welcome in indeed. And one thing I'm going to ask you to do, because the lovely Discord is avoiding showing your full name, just inform me of your name, please, so I know who I've got in the booth.
It's Scott Brown.
Scott Brown, welcome in, sir. How are we doing?
Not bad, mate. How's yourself?
Yeah, not bad at all. And some good quality racing out there that we saw tonight, and a P7 for you as well.
Yes.
P2 in your class as well, P2 in the AMS. Fantastic result for you. You've got to be happy with that, surely.
Delighted. It's probably my least favourite track on the calendar at the moment. So delighted to get through it relatively harm-free. So yeah, really enjoyed the race for a change.
Yeah, no, it didn't look that bad at all. There's a lot of carnage going on. Now, I'm going to ask this because I think I'm going to have to ask every racer that comes in here. Did you see the mistake from Tom Bland there at the end of the race?
No.
Okay, right. Well, to explain it, because you'll probably see it back on the broadcast anyway, but to explain it, Tom Bland decided to spin himself out on the start-finish line because he thought he won it when it was actually the white flag that was being displayed, not the checkered flag.
Oh, nightmare.
So that was a bit of chaos for him. But a top quality race, obviously, for yourself, and there was a lot of action going on out there. You said this is a track that you don't like?
No, not particularly. I just doesn't matter what I drive round this track. I just can't get to grips with it at all. So I had a bit of a hard time in the PCC. I was doing some practicing, and I was kind of dreading tonight, but it all worked out not too badly.
Yeah, not a bad couple of results for you at all. But now, the thing is, obviously, we go to Mugello next. Now, how do you feel about that course? Is that any better than this one?
I love Mugello, yeah. Yeah, it's one of my favourite tracks.
So you feel
So,
like
yeah,
you're going to be a lot stronger around there than what we were tonight?
a lot more consistent, I would think, around Mugello. It's a much more kind of sweeping track. There's not many stop-starts apart from obviously the first corner. So I like a more sweeping track than a kind of start and stop one. So.
And it is a bit of a different question for you. So obviously, Tanso Racing Group. There's a lot of different drivers here, and obviously you see certain names week in, week out. Who would you consider your on-track rival? Someone that you always seem to be battling every week?
I think Craig Corish and Peter Woodmore are probably my two that I seem to. I think we're quite close on lap time, so wherever we go.
It certainly looked that for a couple of you out there, especially for Peter Woodmore, who's been sort of up and down the grid with some slip-ups here, but obviously some good comeback drives as well. But obviously you had a fantastic race nonetheless. Obviously P2 in your class as well. You're up one position from your starting grid place. So overall, not too bad from yourself. But obviously we look forward to seeing you at Mugello. But before I let you go, I'll give you the floor and give you the time to give any shout-outs or thank yous to anyone you wish to do so.
No, I'm okay, thanks. Cheers.
Okay, not a problem at all. Well, Mr. Brown, appreciate you joining us and look forward to seeing you next week out at Mugello Racing Circuit.
Thanks very much, Callum. Cheers, mate.
So next person we'll bring in is Mr. Daniel Wareham.
Oh, what's going off? Hello.
Hello, how are we?
Well, that went looked tits up, didn't it?
That was a bit chaotic, I have to say, and there was some times where it looked like you possibly were struggling. Talk us through what was going on out
there. Wing 5, mate. Wing 5. That's all I can say. Wing 5. I thought I'd try it out. So obviously we've been in PCC all this week, and we've been like Wing 10. And with the track being a little bit cooler, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try Wing 5. And yeah, he doesn't like it halfway through the race. It starts scrubbing the tyres, and then you start struggling.
Well,
but hey-ho.
It looked like one of those races where a lot of people are struggling with very similar corners. There's a right-hander that comes over a crest of a hill and towards the end of the circuit, and that seemed to be the one that caught a lot of people off.
I love that corner.
Is that one of your favourites? Is it?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. You just over the corner before it. There's a curb on the left hand side. You kind of jump that, and then you land, cog it down to like third gear, and then back on the gas. It's just beautiful. When it connects, it's nice, but when it goes wrong, you're like, yeah, I'm in the grass here, sort of thing. To the left hand side, it's a struggle to keep the car back on track, but yeah. When it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad.
Now, I notice you're one of these drivers that do like a cheeky rumble strip or two, because I do see your car quite regularly up on two wheels, going through some fast-paced corners. And is that something you like to do across all courses, or is that just certain tracks that you feel might be able to give you a bit of an advantage, taking that extra millimetre or two on the rumble?
I think that's how you're supposed to race, right? Take the shortest route possible.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you can shorten the track length, that's certainly going to help you and give
Yeah.
you an advantage.
Hell,
Um,
I've paid for the track. I'm going to use it all. You know.
you know what? I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that at all. I completely agree. Now,
Until their numbers start ticking up, then I have to calm down a little bit. You know.
oh yeah, with the X's, yeah, they're dreadful. But here's one thing that will be a question, sort of on behalf of the viewers as well. There's a lot of SimTech cars out there now. Are you guys actually in a form of team, or do you just happen to race the same colours?
So we're all in a Discord chat, right?
Okay.
And I have got cars. I've got paints for the cars. If you've ever noticed the colours on the cars, they're like there's a bronze, a gold, and a silver.
Yep.
That's our tiers of our team tiers. If you know, in the Tanso racing.
Okay.
Yeah, the pro-ams and the pros and all that sort of business. So we're all supposed to be racing different colours. A couple of seasons ago, the Tanso came up with like we'll have teams of 2. So I was teamed up with Ryan Dudley, and then after that, they kind of stopped doing the teams, but we all kind of kept the colours, if you know what I mean, and run the paints and stuff.
Yep.
So there's quite a few guys in the Discord chat, as you can imagine, because there's quite a few SimTech cars on the track.
Yeah. No, I'm
It's
looking
not
at.
team. It is a team in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I used to broadcast as well here a few seasons ago, and they were in teams of 2. So I do know what you're on about there with the team. So I do kind of miss that in a way as well, seeing the team play and team games. But
Yeah.
it's always nice to see quite a large number of cars with your livery on there, out on track as well, and delivering some great performances like we saw tonight. But we look forward to next week, and we're going to Mugello. How do you feel about that track?
I am absolutely useless. I love the track. I am absolutely useless at it. And because it's not PCC, it's going to be week 13. There's going to be no practice for anybody unless you actually get on track yourself. But it's not the same, is it, when you're just hot lapping? I'd rather practice with other cars around you, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's a different feel to it.
That's why I was so excited for this season, because it follows the production car. We can all get on track and see how it is actually to race against people.
Yeah.
Get that pre-practice in. Plus, that's all I do anyway. That's all I do.
No,
coming from work, and I get about 4 or 5 hours on the rig every night. So
that's not too bad then. Not too bad at all.
I should be a lot better than what I am really for all that practice, right?
I'm going to keep all words and opinions to myself. I'm not going to incriminate myself here. I'm from a neutral point of view. But obviously a wonderful P4 result in the end for you. And like I do for everyone before we end the interview here, I'm going to give you the floor to give any shout-outs or thank yous you wish to do so.
No, I'm good. Just a big thanks out for doing the streams, man. Appreciate it. Pretty good.
Oh, thank you very much. Not a problem at all. And we look forward to seeing you at Mugello next week. So good luck trying to get the practice in. I know you're not going to enjoy it too much being by yourself, but hopefully we'll see you putting in some good lap times next week and some solid racing.
I hope so too. All right, brother. Catch you later.
Thank you very much. We'll catch you again next week.
Mate. Sorry, man.
So our third and final person is, I believe, Mr. Mark Brown. I can't tell because the name's been cut off.
Yeah, you're right there.
Oh, there we go.
Right.
Welcome in, Mr. Brown. How are we doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. Bit of an eventful one, but not the sort of the result I wanted, in fairness. But what do you do?
You know, everyone has been saying it as a bit of an eventful one, and you were obviously, I hate to bring it up, but you were down 10 positions from your starting grid position. Tell us what happened, Mark.
First race, good pace. Stuck in behind. There was a train just between the three of us: Scott, Daniel, Tom, and myself. I overtook Tom a couple of times. Then I was caught Daniel and Scott, and Daniel had the off, and that was sort of coming up to the last lap. So yeah, I got tucked in behind Scott, got him into turn 1, and then into turn 2. We were side by side. Well, I was a wee bit behind him. I was unfortunate. I supposedly assumed that he was going to turn in a wee bit quicker, and he didn't, and there was net code between us. So that's what spun Scott, and like it was a racing incident, it was nothing malicious, I suppose, but yeah, that sort of messed things up and jumped back into P3, and then in the last corner, Kenny had spun, and I ended up collecting him, and sure that was me down into P10, was it? I think so. Yeah, then the second race had no audio, computer problems. I done 2 or 3 laps, pulled into the pits to try and get the audio sorted. So, but yeah, it was unfortunate. But all on that, there, like I enjoy VAR. So I was kind of hoping for a lot better results. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it wasn't the most ideal night at all, but at the end of the day, you managed to finish the night, and you've got your head held up fairly high. And we go on to Mugello next week. How do you feel about Mugello? Is that a track that you prefer to VIR, or?
Do you know what? I still have to download it yet.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a fresh one, but yeah, we'll see. I'll try my best again to see what happens. I'll have to do a bit of practice this week. Work it out, but yeah, we'll see where we fare out. Maybe try a couple of PCC races and see where we go. But,
well,
yeah,
it's looking like it could be a tasty end to the season, and obviously you got P5 overall in your class, which when you look at it that way, it doesn't look too bad at the end of the day. But some critical races yet to come as well. So fingers crossed the practice goes alright for you. But as we've just heard in the booth just a few moments ago, there's obviously no practice officially for this race coming up because it's week 13. So are you gonna?
yeah, that's right.
Are you gonna enjoy practicing on your own, or is this something that you don't like doing?
I'll have to see what sort of time I have, family life and all that, But I will see. I'll try and get a couple laps and try and learn it, to see how it goes. Just yeah, it's. I'm just a bit annoyed what happened this evening, but yeah, fair play to Daniel and all, and Tom and Jack, and Scott. Like they were all rapid, so it's just unfortunate what happened, I suppose, between us. So yeah, we'll see if we're fair. We'll go into the next one with a clean head again and see if we can do it.
Yeah, it should be interesting race indeed. Now, before I give you the floor to give any shout outs or thank yous you want to do so, I'm going to say please go and watch the broadcast and watch the final lap of the second race.
Oh, I did. I've seen it.
Tom Bland has had an absolute nightmare, and that was incredible to see. But yeah, it was all good fun and games. But as always, I'll give you the floor to do any shout outs or thank yous you wish to do so.
We're going to get Tom on Abacus so we can do the laps. He doesn't knock off each lap as he goes. He's struggling to count, I think. God love him. But yeah, thank you very much. You're doing a great job with the stream, and Tanso and all the rest, and all the races out there. Yeah, and we shall hopefully go into the next one and with another. Is it 3 events now? Another 3 left. Week 13 and then 2.
Yeah, we have 3 left to go. So Mugello and then 2 to be revealed.
Yeah, and well, we'll all try and keep up the good work, and thank you very much. I'll enjoy watching it back.
No problem at all. Well, I hope you enjoy that moment on that final lap. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you next week out and at a fantastic circuit. And yeah, fingers crossed your practice goes well during the week.
Yeah, I'll try my best. Anyway, Piers, thank you very much and take care.
Thank you, and you. We'll see you again very soon.
All the best.
So that was Mark Brown, ladies and gentlemen, and that is going to round off your interviews for this evening. What an evening it was of racing. Obviously, we had the Tom Bland nightmare, and I think that's going to be one that's going to live a bit rough for him for the next couple of nights, and it's going to haunt him in his sleep as well. But nevertheless, I'm sure he had a good laugh with it as well, same as we all did up here in the booth, and obviously those you watching around the world as well. But for the Tanso Racing Group, Season 9, Round 5, that is going to be it for us here this evening. Round 6 will be at Mugello next Sunday, so make sure you clear your calendars ready for that one. And then after that, there's only 2 races left before the end of the season, and we'll be moving on to double figures when we introduce Season 10 in the near future. Obviously, if you want to get involved in that, stay tuned, get in the Discord and get yourselves involved, ask any questions you wish to do so, and if you want to get involved in any form of other way, like sponsoring the league or helping with any broadcasting, pictures, anything like that, do get in contact with the with the league owners and the creators of all the sessions, all the admins, and they will help you, point you in the right direction to getting involved with that. But for me, that's going to be everything here tonight. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you do like, share the stream as well, and subscribe to the Tanso Racing Group. Help them get to their goal. 59 subscribers this far. Let's try and get 60 before next week, and if we can, we'll push for 80 by the end of the season. So thank you very much all for watching, and we'll see you again next week out. But for me, that is going to be all. Thank you very much, and good night.